Thank you to Subcase for sponsoring this video. Bigger, bigger, bigger. There we go. So before I get into the full verses of the 11 Pro Max versus the 12 Pro Max, here is a real quick blind camera sample test. That's the big story aside from design with these two phones. Can you tell a difference? I'll show you the answer and also show you a lot more samples from both when we get to the camera section in just a second. If you're watching this and you're like me, you've probably watched a ton of videos already on the 12 Pro Max. I want to give a caveat that I've always gravitated towards the larger phones. I like my big screens, and I cannot lie. I used the 11 Pro Max as my primary phone for about 6 months, so I am used to the size. But every video out that you see is saying essentially some version of 12 Pro Max is ginormous, cameras are really good, but check it to make sure it's going to fit in your hand or isn't going to be too big in your hand. I was really nervous actually before I held the 12 Pro Max. Somebody who always uses big phones, I had it in my head, like, is this going to be too big for me? Am I just gonna be holding like a phone iPad Pro in my hand? And the honest answer is it does not feel that much bigger than the 11 Pro Max. If you have access to 11 Pro Max, if you've tried an 11 Pro Max, it feels only slightly larger than that. I think the prevailing opinion from people is from folks who haven't used the Max versions of Apple's phones in the past. Now the design is square and it's got stainless steel on the sides. That lends itself to feeling bigger in your hand, but it is not that much bigger. In fact, it's only like less than 3 millimeters taller and less than half a millimeter wider. And the 12 Pro Max is actually thinner than the 11 Pro Max. All that is to say, I think the hubbub about it being overblown of just ginormous in your hand is overblown. Now I have bigger hands, I have a weird giant thumb, so to me the phone feels really natural. But again, if you have an 11 Pro Max or you have a Max phone, it's not going to feel that drastic. So I wanted to get just that big, giant stainless steel elephant out of the way. So design of these phones is obviously similar to the 12 Pro, right? It's a bigger version of that. Squared off design, like I said, stainless steel edge, new ceramic screen, and new color options on the back. I do want to talk about the display since that's the literally big story here. 6.7 inches, and it looks beautiful to my eye. Blacks are black, colors are bright and vibrant. It looked really good even in direct sunlight. The knock on it though, if any of the iPhones, and I think every version of the Pro should have had a higher refresh screen, like pretty much every flagship Android phone out now, the 12 Pro Max should have had that higher refresh screen. I know the argument of fail rates, but they could have at least done it, in my opinion, on the 12 Pro Max to give it that more pro feature. It's not here, it is what it is. If you're not used to seeing higher refresh screen, you're not gonna miss it. If you are, you will definitely notice it. But it's fair to say, at least, this is the best version of Apple's OLED screens they've ever done in the past. My phone is generally my computer, my camera, it's my internet device, it's everything to me. And to my mind, I want the biggest version of that. As bigger generally means bigger battery and larger display. I don't have the best eyesight in the world, so having bigger tends to look better to my eye. But also just browsing, being able to generally see more, I enjoy having, and I've just always gone back to big phones. But it's more apparent than ever with the 12 Pro Max that Apple has a clear missed opportunity. The aspect ratio, the extra screen real estate, you should be able to do something additional with them. It's screaming to run 2 apps, one on top, one below. Give me extra icon in the dock. Give me extra icons on the home screen. Give me some difference with that giant screen. Because right now, when you hold up the 12 Pro Max versus the Mini, it's just the exact same thing, just smaller versus bigger. And I suppose that there's beauty and simplicity in that same experience. But I think when you're getting a 6.7 inch screen, that's, bordering on tablet size, you'd expect to be able to see a little bit more on that display. The screens alone is not a reason to pick one or the other. It's certainly not a reason to upgrade from the 11 Pro Max to the 12 Pro Max. The design may be a reason. If you're the kind of person that always wants to have the newest looking and feeling phone, then you can be happy. That's a reason for me. But when it comes to display, not a big enough reason. And if you are terrified that 12 Pro Max is going to be absolutely ginormous coming from an 11 Pro Max, hopefully you can put those fears to rest. So if you decide to get an iPhone 12 Pro Max, or really any of the iPhone 12s, you want to protect your phone, and Apple's first-party cases are expensive and they don't offer the best drop protection. So you want to get something else. And what I've been using, what's been working really well for me, is the Unicorn Beetle Pro by Subcase. So first of all, the price, available for around 20 bucks on Amazon, is a screaming deal, even if you just got the case. But for that 20 bucks, not only do you get a case that won CNET's annual drop test protection award, so incredible protection, you're also getting a belt clip to go along with it. You're getting a kickstand if you want to prop it up to use it. It's also going to come with a screen protector and a ring on the back for holding it. You're getting all of that for 20 bucks. Available in a ton of colors. They also have different designs too, different styles. If you don't gravitate towards the Unicorn Beetle Pro, you can pick whatever you want, and for 20 bucks on Amazon, it's just been a really easy, no-brainer decision to get for any of the iPhone 12 models, from the mini all the way up to the Pro Max. If you want to pick one up for yourself, and you should protect your iPhone 12, whichever version you got, link to it down below. Otherwise, go to Amazon and search iPhone 12 case by Subcase, and you'll see a ton of options pop up. All right, it's camera time. This is the big difference. This is like what Apple was like fist pumping, hyping. 12 Pro Max is a camera beast. So back to our blind test. You should have been able to tell, if you believe the hype, a very clear difference between these two cameras. B was a 12 Pro Max versus A on the 11 Pro Max. I like photography. I consider myself an amateur photographer. I am not a professional photographer, in all candor, with a professional photographer's eye. And as much as I'd like to tell you I could pick out the 12 Pro Max every single time, quite frankly, I could not on their own displays. And maybe if I blew them up, printed them out in giant versions, I could see it. And when I zoomed in, there was differences. But generally, just looking at the two pictures, almost every time it was really hard to tell a difference in photo quality between the 11 Pro Max and the 12 Pro Max. So, but there are some caveats. Low light is the biggest one, and the detail that you see with it. The 12 Pro Max has a bigger sensor, and it's got sensor shift. Essentially what that's doing with the wide angle, instead of stabilizing the lens itself, it's actually stabilizing the sensor. So you generally have more detail in the low light shots or the night mode shots. And that was very apparent, and a very apparent difference between the two phones. But if you're taking most of your photos in pretty decent lighting conditions, really hard to see a difference. And perhaps that's a testament to sort of how the iPhone 11 Pro Max handles HDR, but both look really good. But maybe one of the biggest reasons to get one of the Pro phones over the regular is you get a telephoto. It is a 2.5x zoom as opposed to the 2x zoom that you've got on the iPhone 11 Pro. And here's an example of 2 versus 2.5 times. Not giant. That was a disappointment. I use Telephoto all the time. I would have really liked to have had an actual 5x zoom. I mean, so on the 12 Pro Max, you've got a newer version of HDR with HDR3. You've got deep fusion and night mode on all the cameras. You can do portrait mode at night. And of course, you've got the LiDAR on the 12 Pro Max. But what does all that mean for like actual differences? If you are taking photos in like normal light, the differences are quite frankly really hard to see. And I kept trying to convince myself that I could see a difference, because if I had just dropped, $1,300, $1,400 on a phone, I would want to see that difference. But I really couldn't in almost every setting that wasn't some version of the extreme. So shooting like into the sun or shooting in really low light, both looked very good. Buying any current gen iPhone, you're banking on the future. I think video is a really clear example of Apple's future play. So the 12 Pro Max shoots Dolby Vision, uses 10-bit, a lot of things that make the phones more future-proof. Using them right now, though, it's not that drastic. Most TVs aren't going to support the Dolby Vision stuff that you're shooting anyway. So unless you're going to watch it back only on your phone, you'll notice a huge difference. And in fact, a lot of video you might be shooting is going to have weird overblown effect when you upload it to social media. The 10-bit, I think, is really nice for kind of what I do, being able to edit. And it is awesome to have. But do you need it if you're not editing video, you know, professionally or for a YouTube channel? Absolutely not. But if you plan on using your iPhone as a camera for something other than watching the footage back on your phone, it is a huge difference with the 12 Pro Max. I mean, we shot an entire video on the 12 Pro because the cameras are that good. This can become a A-roll camera, it can become a really good B-roll camera, and because it's 10-bit, you can edit it to sort of look like anything. To my eye, that is a big enough reason for me to upgrade from the 11 to the 12, but for you, it's gonna come down to how you wanna use it.
1, 2, 3.
So there's an obvious trend here. Like, most things are not drastic differences between the 11 Pro Max and the 12 Pro Max. But it's not to say that aside from camera and design, there are still some fundamental differences between the two. So I've tended to gravitate towards Max phones because I want the best battery life. Pre-2020, when I traveled a lot, that mattered to me. And that's why the Max phones were always perfect. Now, oddly enough, the battery milliamp hours in the 12 Pro Max is smaller than the 11 Pro Max. The 11 Pro Max was a battery beast for me. It was a day-and-a-half phone. I could get 6 to sometimes 10 hours of screen on time. It was perfect. I'm expecting that same beastly battery life with the iPhone 12 Max, despite it having 5G, due to processor improvements with the A14, which is an absolute beast of a processor. Talking about processor and iPhones is most of the time unnecessary. A13 versus A14, both are stupid fast. In most things you're gonna do, you'll notice no difference whatsoever. The benchmarks mean nothing to me when it comes to Apple's phones because they are all fast. 14 will give you more headroom for probably another year versus what the 13 is going to give you. But I think you'd be hard pressed to really spot any real difference in actual usage versus these two. So just for me, battery life is probably one of the biggest reasons to get the Max versus anything else out there. But the 12 Pro Max has other stuff going for it. 5G. If you plan on keeping your phone for a few years, like you probably will, you're going to want 5G. Now, right now, 5G is not really a thing that matters too much to many people, but it might over the next 6 months, 8 months, 12 months, and beyond. And if you want a more future-proof phone, certainly having it versus not, can make it, a better option for you. All right, so like, which one do you get? So the easy, obvious, stupid answer is if you're coming from any phone that is older than the iPhone 11 generation, so Pro Max or anything else that went in that year, you're going to love the 12 Pro Max and 100% worth the upgrade for every reason that you can think of. If you've got an 11 Pro Max, it's harder to justify. So if you couldn't tell, not generally huge, giant reasons, not a flagship feature to upgrade from the 11 Pro Max to the 12 Pro Max. But if one of the things I talked about, one of those differences, while maybe it's sharpness in low light or 10-bit video or new design sparked something in your head that you had to have, and if you decide to upgrade to 12 Pro Max, you will not be disappointed in the slightest. It is a beast of a phone that does pretty much everything really well. Just that the 11 Pro Max also did a lot of things really well.